I hate you.
There you go. That's the first thing stream hears is I hate you. That's
But the
fucking
Ferengi in the
perfect.
gorilla suit has got to go.
Oh my lord. Anyways, hello everybody. Welcome. This is Star Trek Kongo, a Star Trek Adventures actual play using the rules from Odysseus Entertainment. I'm ELH the Game Master, and joining me are a lovely group of role players. Not really a whole lot in the announcement department. If you're following my Twitter, you already know that this week is pretty light on the whole streaming front, but I would say that if you have some free time this Thursday, I am doing a all VTuber one-shot, which should be pretty fun. We're doing another Fallout one-shot, and definitely encourage anybody that's a fan of VTubing or Fallout in general, or hell, if you like Benosphere and my other streams, come check it out, see what we got going on there. But I think that's enough for me. Let's just go around and have everyone introduce themselves, and then we can get started, starting with the captain.
Hello everyone, my name is Matthew. I play Captain Lee Tobin, an intensely religious Bajoran on his first command.
And I play Jaro Terrell, a intensely, I don't know, the chief engineer of the Congo.
Hey, I'm Aaron. I play Lieutenant Commander Datig, the Tellarite First Officer, who is intensely hostile towards Lieutenant Jaro.
Drama.
Yeah.
I'm Watney. I play the Chief Medical Officer of the Congo, Dr. Alel, the Denobulan.
And last but not least, I'm Dag. I play Congo's latest and greatest Borg Augment Hybrid 5s. And I had a really bad week last week. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. And on that note, I believe, Captain, you have the opening log for today, so take it away.
Captain's Log, Stardate 94429.5. The Congo is currently en route for Deep Space October to drop off the officers whom we rescued from Outpost Theta 23, and to install our new mission pod. ETA is Stardate 94434.7, roughly 3 days from now. Would that the losses of our crew members could be so easily remedied. Ever since I gave the order to force Lieutenant Fives to connect with the alien hive mind on our most recent mission, he's been despondent, justifiably outraged. 3 doctors on the bridge, and none of us advocated for him, for his rights. But only one of us really is a doctor anymore. I believe that Datig has been better able to come to terms with that than I. Lieutenant Fives himself once said that he was, in his words, nothing more than a grunt. And if he had to be sacrificed for the good of the ship, he would accept that reality. But harder than dying in a single moment is watching, helpless, as you die one piece at a time. In his typically forthright fashion, Datig has suggested that he's rankled under the responsibilities as first officer in the past. The fact that neither of us has the luxury of prioritizing any individual over the well-being of the ship, not even ourselves. Perhaps he's compensated for these difficulties by reinforcing and exaggerating that prickly Tellarite demeanor of his, keeping himself estranged from the rest of the crew. And maybe I'm still just chasing that prophecy from my youth. You have the hands of a healer, the emissary said. In contemplating my own role in the subversion of Five's mental and physical autonomy, I've attempted to abstract the issue, delving into a host of treatises on ethics and the Prophet's sacred texts, but it's bootless. I look forward to seeing my wife when we return to Deep Space October, and my children. She would no doubt tell me that I made the right choice. A captain's first duty is to the ship, her crew as a whole, and the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. As a personal ethos, that can be commendable, but when imposed, it's led to the greatest violations of sapient rights, of, to use Lieutenant Jaro's anthropocentric phrase, human dignity that the Quadrant's ever seen. And personally, I've never been a consequentialist. Divine command theory, natural law, rights and responsibilities never granted, but recognized as inherent to what we are. All the high-minded philosophizing fell away because I saw a way to make peace with the hive, and I took it without thinking of the consequences, mostly to Fives. particularly in light of what Datig and I forced him to do. We might as well be the Borg. Computer, delete the last sentence. End log.
Interesting. And I think I know exactly what I want to have happen for that complication that chat just gave me. The computer's going to beep and chime like it did, and you're not going to know this till much later. The log sentence isn't deleted. But you have no idea. I mean, out of game you do now, but in character, no idea. But yeah, so for our first scene, we are actually going to go, and we're going to go straight to the bridge of the Banshee. And currently running some diagnostics on some new equipment and tweaks to the Banshee, we see Lieutenant Jaro and Lieutenant Commander Datig basically, how to put this, getting along, maybe? That might be too strong of a word.
Lieutenant, the secondary EPS conduits in the tertiary junction are out of flux.
Yeah, you're making up words again.
And Datig's he's gonna look around to make sure nobody's there and go, just wanted to make sure you were still paying attention.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm always paying attention.
Just not in my classes.
Hey, I paid attention in your classes.
The double minus.
It was a passing grade.
Technically, and of course you're not a doctor, so
So
you can hardly be blamed.
So, talking about doctors, well, a whole bunch of doctors made a questionable decision recently, didn't you?
You mean the commanding officer and the first officer made a command decision?
Well, maybe that's why I'm not in blue anymore, or red, or whatever. So, yeah. I just think that, well, you guys, he picks up like a spanner, and holds it and kind of waves it at Datig. This is not fives.
I'll skip my typical acerbic remark and say, I'm aware that what we did injured him. I'm aware of that every minute of every day.
Okay, well, I just had to say something because, well, his injuries are not visible.
No. Not visible, but nonetheless very noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't my intention, and that.
Oh, I have no doubt that there was no ill intent involved at all. But I have to ponder at least a little on whether or not the same decision would have been made with another crew member.
What are you implying?
Forget about it.
No, I'm interested to know. Do you think that somehow Captain Lee and myself view Fives as less of a person because of his past?
I would go so far as to say Starfleet views him as less of a person. And it is of no fault to your own or the captain's. I just think it's one of those things that I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but I've always thought that Starfleet in its ideals looks good on paper, but when put to practice, I've seen a lot of variation.
Yes, I've seen that from time to time myself. I've always tried to hold myself to the oaths I swore as a doctor, but I cannot do that and function adequately as a first officer. So then I decided that I would sever that part of my identity and simply be a first officer, and now this happens. I suggest something blatantly invasive, and in no uncertain terms, it was a violation.
Well, to borrow an old term,
Is this going to be another human euphemism?
No, not at all. Actually, it's it's part of project management, I guess. I know that as a first officer, it is your duty to put on the black hat from time to time. So, I don't blame you. I just think that there needs to be a little bit more acknowledgement of the sacrifice that he was commanded to do.
Well, I would, of course, tell him, but
Don't touch that button.
Oh. Primary plasma intake. Emergency shutoff, yes. Should not touch that one, but then again, I myself C++ in engineering.
You must have had a generous teacher.
I did.
Well,
Lieutenant...
as always, Date, my conversations with you are very enlightening.
That's one way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, we shift away from the cockpit of the Banshee. We're actually now going to go to the bridge, where on the bridge currently is actually what I'm flavoring as, oh, hey, hold up, 5 anonymous gift subs. Thank you so much. Where was I? Yeah, so on the bridge is not the standard command staff. It's actually Dr. Alel in the big chair, and then pretty much everybody else in Gamma Shift. So we have Shatalik here, we have Prin here, Rowan's still here, but we also see a new face, or at least a face that we haven't really seen in play yet. We see crewman Ducha, and as a reminder, since the Klingon in question has had many names over the past however many episodes, this is the engineer that Jaro has blamed, disparaged. You should know who I'm talking about by now. But
hey, I'm just saying, his name wasn't worth learning until now.
There you go. That's a Jaroism if I ever heard one. But so that everybody is involved, I would like somebody to take Ducha, and I would like somebody to take Shatalik. Obviously, Matthew, you're taking Prin. And, whoever's left over can take Rowan, or I can take Rowan, whichever people feel is appropriate.
I'll take Shatalik.
Okay.
I'll take Ducha.
You'll take Ducha. All right.
All right, then I'll take Rowan.
All right. And yeah, so to set the scene, Dr. Alel, pretty quiet Gamma Shift. You're currently at Warp 7. Estimated time to arrival is about 2 days, about 13 hours and 26 minutes.
Arrival to where?
Say again?
Arrival to where again?
Deep Space October.
Oh, we're going to October. Okay.
Yes. And currently, all departments are reporting green across the board, so all you really have to do is sit in this big chair and listen to your crewmates talking.
Yeah, so Alel would have sort of brought something from sickbay with her. So she has like a panel to the side which has readouts of experiments that are currently ongoing in sickbay, so she can keep an eye on them. And she's kind of tapping away at that.
And yeah, I think at that maybe Rowan will spin around and say, "Hey, Shatalik, I've been
Yes.
I've been practicing. Watch this." And she'll produce like a single peanut, put it on the back of her hand, and say, "Yeah, I saw Lieutenant Jarrow do this once." And she'll hit the back of her hand and attempt to catch the peanut in its in her mouth.
Well, I think that's going to be a fitness and con if I ever heard of one. Difficulty of 1. Very easy to pass.
And I think she has augmented ability fitness, right?
I would hope she does, yes.
Yes, she does, yes.
So don't roll a complication. That's all you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
The peanut goes up her nose.
Hey, you just got a momentum from chat. There you go.
Nice. Thank you, chat.
And what did you do? You did the one thing I told you not to do. All right, you do get a momentum, but there is a complication. So,
Could I suggest it?
go for it.
The peanut has not actually been cracked out of its shell, so she has just swallowed a...
I think that's perfect.
All
so,
right.
yeah.
So now clutching at her throat, just
My God.
Shatalik leaps over the panel and goes over to give him give her the Heimlich maneuver.
And because I find this a funny chain of events, I need you to give me a fitness and a medicine difficulty of 1. Don't roll a complication.
new helm officer. Here we go.
Brandon is right there. He's looking at his new job.
Doctor is already on shift. Why did you do that?
What?
Oh my God.
What? What?
Best close up ever. Amen.
What? How are you doing this?
I told you we were going to blow up DSO before the first hour was over, right? We are on track.
Oh, fuck.
Okay. Well, I had a plot. We're on a different track now. I'm just going to throw out those notes.
Is there a
So-
Black Sabbath song for that? Crazy Train.
Shatalik,
kind of like looks over at Duchana like, mm.
Shatalik, you perform the Heimlich maneuver, and it is somewhat successful, but the problem is that when Rowan fires out the peanut, they do so in such a way that now the peanut is lodged halfway into Prin's ear canal on the right side of his head.
What? What are you doing? What, are you an idiot? What?
Captain, would you like to attend to that?
Please, she's not a captain. She's barely even a doctor.
It is
Anybody-
old evil tradition to refer to whoever's in command of the ship as captain, is it not?
I don't
okay.
care.
All right, Horatio Brown Noser.
So Alel will get up and help.
And Alel, since you are a competent doctor, you could just pull it out.
Nice catch, Prin.
Now I know what the captain meant by no food on the bridge. So like toss that into an incinerator.
Yeah, just off screen, just flies off screen and gets instantly vaporized.
Oh, It's my
Ducha
pra-
will hide his bag of popcorn in a
it
drawer.
was my practice peanut.
Usually they come in bags.
I believe you need more practice.
No, you need to never do that again.
I like Chat's suggestion that she should have been allergic to peanuts.
That would have been a good one. That would have been a good one.
Anyone else have any tricks they want to show us?
I can juggle 2 batleth.
Maybe on the holodeck later, crewman.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Isn't that some sort of gross violation of Klingon honor codes? I mean, treating it such disrespect?
The batleth?
Yes.
Juggling two batleth is a Tokmach combat maneuver.
I've never actually heard of this, and Prin will take out a pad. Could you please elaborate on how this actually facilitates combat? I don't understand how that would actually be useful.
If you are fighting more than one opponent, you steal their batleth, and then you fight in the Tokmach tradition.
Then I guess if you juggle it, they can't get it back.
I would be happy to demonstrate on the holodeck at some time.
I'm intrigued.
I'm terrified.
From a strictly tactical aspect, I can't see any sort of real advantage to using a batleth in such a manner.
Well, traditionally the batleth is a terribly inefficient combat weapon. It's designed purely for the sake of intimidation purposes, and it was likely some sort of farm implement that was pressed into service as a weapon in ancient Klingon culture, around which an elaborate mythology developed, pertaining to Kahless and the forging of his own batleth within the fires of some ridiculous mountain volcano. So, I suppose that it doesn't make any sense, but nothing the Klingons do does.
I always thought batleths were just, compensation.
I'm not one to get wrapped up in Klingon eschatology. I merely enjoy practicing the forms of the traditional combat routines.
You have quite the vocabulary, crewman.
I'm an engineer.
And I'm a doctor.
Do engineers take like creative writing or something? Because that's...
I could lend you one of my technical manuals if that will help.
Oh, I'm not good at engineering.
According to Jaro, neither is he.
So, what are you all gonna do when you get to DSL? Any fun plans?
I'm just gonna go shopping.
It's be difficult if you find clothing in your size.
What are you implying?
I'm implying that you're a very tall woman, that's all. Also, the number of fabrics that are comfortable for somebody to wear when they are already ensconced in fur must be quite limiting.
I mean, I like... I'm a big fan of Tholian silk, but an ensign stipend doesn't get you a whole lot of Tholian silk, so I've been buying up what I can when I can, and eventually I think I'm going to have something for a really nice outfit, but it's not all going to be the same pattern or the same color, but I just think that makes it more fun.
Well, if you wear that dress, suit, what?
Aren't cats colorblind?
Okay, all right. I have to say this multiple times a week, so I'll say it again. A vacation, not a cat.
And on that awkward pause, we're actually going to transition down to the mess hall, where we actually see in 5 aft, we see Mr. Fives currently seated at a table with whatever meal, data pad, whatever he wants to have on hand. And into 5 aft walks Captain Lee himself. Now, since this is towards the end of the night, or rather the beginning of night, there's not a whole lot of people in here. In fact, I think besides Fives, you kind of maybe see another crewman, just one in here. So the place is pretty barren right now. Pretty open, good time to have a conversation, a heart-to-heart. You get where I'm going with this.
Just to set the stage, 5 is engrossed in reading whatever is on the pad, and the lighting in the section over the table has been reduced. 5 has recently complained of oversensitivity to visual spectrum recently.
And as he enters into the mess hall, Lee would not be wearing his uniform at the moment, so he's dressed in civilian attire. He looks in, observes the crewmen for a moment, walks over to the replicator. Andorian Kulch, please.
Of course, the beverage materializes as you wish. perfect temperature and all that.
Fives looks up at recognition of the voice of the captain, but then looks quickly back down before he turns around.
Lee will look at the replicator for a moment to take up the drink, take a lengthy swig from it, and then walk towards the table, somewhat tentatively. Is this seat taken?
No, sir.
For the moment, I'm off duty, Fives. You don't need to call me sir.
Understood.
And you don't need to let me sit down.
Conversation should probably happen sometime, I'm sure. We can start the first of what might be many now.
Of course. If at any time you'd like me to leave, please just let me know.
You'll know, sir.
All right.
Yes.
What are you reading?
It's an old Earth book called Flowers for Algernon.
You may have one momentum, because that literally is my favorite short story ever.
I didn't know that you were into or interested in, well, I suppose more highbrow forms of literature. From what I understand from Commander Dateg, you liked something called Spider-Man?
Comic books are a lot of fun. But this was recommended to me on a pre-programmed reading list by the computer.
What's it about?
It's about a man who has a procedure performed on him and finds that he becomes far better than he once was. But over time, those benefits deteriorate, and he is left being who he was with the knowledge of what he could have been.
You know, Fives, I don't even know how to begin this conversation. But I think that you're the one who should set the terms for it. So if there's something you want to say, if there's something you want to talk about, I'm ready to listen.
There have been many words going through my head the last few days. Once I was cleared to leave sickbay, I needed to get my mind distracted and maybe put those words in place. And they're probably not all there yet, but it seems to me that my rehabilitation at the facility prior to joining the crew of the Kongo was priming me to join a more relaxed, perhaps civilian life, and that my re-entry into Starfleet may have been premature. As I have grown with the Kongo crew, I have found a need for self-reliance that, in an interesting irony, has compelled me to embrace the memories from my assimilation. Being strong, taking personal responsibility. A starship is not exactly a collective, but on the farm, there was a lot more, shall we say, collective support. And while I understand that the ears of the senior staff are open to having these conversations regularly, it's just a different environment that I am now coming to terms that I need to adapt to.
You know, I've always found that Starfleet has had something of a schizophrenic perspective on unity. Starfleet has always privileged our ability to come together as a unified whole, a collective, if you will, predicated on shared values. And yet the people who inevitably get ahead in Starfleet, the people who are able to stand out from the crowd, are the James T. Kirks, the people who will make their mark because of their, to use a human phrase, rugged individualism. The fact that you're struggling with that, obviously to a degree that I could never understand, I think is one of those strange paradoxes of the way in which Starfleet operates and has operated for centuries.
I can
But
see that.
I do want to say one thing, Lieutenant. If you've been left isolated in some way, that's something else that I have to apologize for.
I don't believe an apology is necessary, at least not right now. I don't think I felt isolated from the crew on a social level. It has just been during certain missions where the ball drops and I'm in a position to catch it, but that position is a lone one. I'm not quite sure how to explain it succinctly. I'm still trying to figure these feelings and thoughts out.
When Go ahead.
It was just another half-formed thought. I would be pleased to hear your words.
I suppose, in lieu of an apology, I have an explanation, at least a partial one. When I formed this crew, selected my senior staff, I did so with the conscious desire to ensure that this crew would not be like the one on my last major assignment, the Fenrir. Almost everyone on board that ship was a combat veteran. On this ship, we have 3 doctors in positions of authority. I wanted this to be a ship of exploration, and as a result, I may have inadvertently placed an undue burden on you. Because of all the senior staff members, and really of most of the crew, you are one of the only ones who is fit to deal with those kinds of crisis situations that you identified.
I appreciate that, sir. In our correspondence during my rehabilitation, I jumped at the chance to join your crew and get back out here. I felt that reclaiming that aspect of my identity would help me recover from the events that I witnessed as a drone. And now I know I am faced with reconciling those two identities. I'm not really Paul Tate, and I know that I have rubber banded back and forth in that personal struggle. I guess it's just when survival was on the line, I didn't expect that I would be called upon in such an unexpected way.
Have you ever heard of a Kurlan Neskos?
No.
They're a kind of artistic work from a long-dead civilization. The Kurlans believed that every person was in fact a collective in his or her own right, that each of us had within ourselves 1,000 competing voices, an entire civilization worth of people, each with their own desires and needs. There's a lot of truth to that, at least on a symbolic level. And I think that you're grappling with one of the most severe cases of that kind of bifurcation, that kind of internal struggle between the different people that make us who we are.
Well, I hope I don't end up like them.
And that's where I interrupt, actually, because as you're about to reply, Captain, two things happen at about the same time. The first is that the entire ship rocks despite inertial dampening. Then, all the power, I mean everything from the lights, the replicators, everything turns off. Not even the emergency lights come on. Everything turns off. And as you look outside, you see that thankfully you've dropped out of warp, but you're at a dead stop. You try your communicator, you get nobody.
Perhaps we should continue this conversation at another time.
Agreed.
Shall we go to the bridge?
I'd like you to get to engineering. I'll try to make my way to the bridge, unless you feel that tactically that would be disadvantageous.
I can see what is going wrong in engineering, if anything.
Very good.
So
Jeffrey
just because I do want to give you guys some momentum, when you guys do try to go through the doors, the manual release isn't opening, so you're going to have to pry it open. And again, for hopefully what should be momentum purposes, I would like you both to, well, one of you is going to be assisting the other, but it's going to be a fitness and a security difficulty of 1. Don't roll a complication. For the love of all that is holy.
Uphold the tradition, guys.
Captain, I believe that I might be able to attenuate a plasmatic servo that might release the locks on the door. If you
Yes.
if you can pull the other side, we might be able to force this door open.
I'm not nearly as spry a man as I once was, but I'll try my best.
That's okay, sir. If this works out, it won't take much. So we're going to go, you said fitness security,
You got it.
and I'm going to argue for infiltration.
I'll give it to you. And yeah, to address Chronoton in chat, so gravity is one of those things in the Star Trek universe where even when power's out, they still have gravity, so there's something going on with the grav plating that it just is always is. It's one of those weird Star Trek things, but good thought all the same.
Doesn't work on Klingon ships so well, though.
Yeah, I was like Klingon ships. You don't want to. You want to have gravity plating there because when the Gok's flying around. Okay, this is good. This is good. This is 2 successes. Okay, 3 successes. Very good. You get 2 momentum. And yes, you are able to get the door open. And again, you sort of look through the corridor outside. No light whatsoever. Again, not even emergency lighting.
Fives will... I don't need to narrate that. Captain, I believe there is an emergency pack on the wall 2 sections forward.
Yeah, very good. Also, I've got to get to the gym more often. Oh.
And fives will move to the emergency pack that should have a tricorder or a flashlight or a phaser or something in it.
It does. And in fact, I'm going to let you decide. You can have 1 item for free, and then you spend 1 momentum, and this will apply to every emergency pack on the Kongo, so choose wisely. It's 1 momentum for 1 item in the emergency pack. Now, don't go throwing a Type 3 phaser in there, because that's a little bulky, but within reason.
Fives, I believe fives can see in the EM spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So he will take a flashlight for free and spend 1 momentum for a tricorder.
Okay. And then that is what it's going to be. There's going to be a flashlight and a tricorder in every emergency pack on the Kongo.
Here, sir, take this. Should help you get to the bridge faster.
Thank you. And Lee will open up the tricorder and attempt to map a way to the bridge.
All right. Captain Lee, I'd like you to roll me a insight and a con, please. Difficulty of 2.
Oh,
And this is going to represent anything related to starship construction, anything related to emergency bulkheads, anything of that sort of design.
Just keep throwing all my weakest attributes at me, huh? And disciplines.
Mhm.
I will spend 1 momentum for an extra die. And
All right.
what was the difficulty again?
2.
Okay.
I mean, I believe. See, I believe. See, there we go. My jinxing is working correctly. So, Lee, good news, bad news. Good news, you can still get to the bridge. Bad news, well, if the door hurts you, the climb ahead of you is going to be even worse.
Well, one deck at a time.
All right.
And he will try to make his way to the bridge as best as possible through the Jeffries tubes.
And the bridge is where we are going to go second, because we're going to go back to the Banshee. Now, of course, the Banshee being a separate entity from the Kongo, the power on the Banshee still works. But Lieutenant Commander Dantic and Jaro, something is very wrong. You notice the lights of the shuttle bay flickering and then dying. You feel the subtle vibration come to a stop. But that's not what's really concerning. You look out the front window of the Banshee, everything is bigger. And I mean everything.
What did you push?
I didn't push anything. That was not me.
Right.
So, Lieutenant, is it just my aging Tellarite eyes, or did we shrink?
Yes, we did. And this is a little troublesome. Let's see.
That was a good one. A little troublesome. That's good.
Oh, it wasn't meant to be. Well, never mind. So let's see. All right, we need to figure out. First off, how stable is this shrinking?
Well, we can run some subatomic scans on the Banshee and the ship itself. If we have, GM, do we have power in the Banshee?
You do. You have full power in the Banshee right now.
So I'd like to utilize the Banshee's internal sensors to determine if indeed if maybe we're hallucinating and the ship reads as as normal, or we read as small, or I want to know what happened to us.
Yeah. So I would like you to roll me either a reason or an insight plus science, please. Difficulty of 1, because this has actually happened on screen before. So it should be easy enough to suss out.
Is this a story of a little ship that took a little trip?
I mean, potentially.
Okay.
3-hour tour. A 3-hour tour.
Would my focus say in astrophysics apply to this?
Give it to you.
In terms of spatial phenomena?
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
All right.
And that's 2 successes, which means you get 1 momentum back. Well, Dantic, you can confirm that this is what is known as a subspace compression anomaly. So you are shrunk to about the size of a shoebox, maybe a little bit less. And it's pretty stable, actually. You probably could go the rest of your mortal life at this size. But there's also something that you don't like, if that wasn't bad enough, because I'm spending 2 threat. Your communication array does not work at all. Not even your comm badges. Like, if you were to go to a different part of the Banshee, you could comm badge to one another, but outside of the Banshee,
Okay. And can I determine through a deep subspace scan the dimensions of this subspace compression field?
So and that'll be your free question. What I would say is that, and this isn't the full answer, but it's hopefully enough. The anomaly that did this to the Banshee had to have passed through the entire ship to get to you. So there's likely damage on the rest of the ship somewhere.
Well, Lieutenant, I've got good news and bad news.
You have good news.
Yes, I have good news.
Okay.
We are smaller. It is not life-threatening immediately. The bad news is the subspace compression field. Well, to get to us, the ship must have passed through a good portion of it, so there's probably going to be some work for your repair crews when this is all over.
Great. Okay. And stability.
Right now, we're stable. We have full power. However, our subspace communication is out.
That's probably because the variance in the size of it is definitely impacting the frequency. Okay, so hold on. We're going to engineering.
Now, Jim, let me ask a question here, just as I just want to make sure this isn't like player knowledge and versus
fair
character
question.
knowledge.
Go for it.
Your dimensions inside of a subspace compression are relative to the compression shape itself. Like, for instance, in the DS9 episode, because Chief O'Brien say was closer to the front of the runabout when it was compressed, he was technically a little bit smaller than Bashir, who was near the rear. I just want to make sure that if we take the Banshee up and sort of fly it through the ship, that we won't expand and then destroy a deck of the ship from the inside. Or
So I guess I was going to clarify this when we went to the bridge, because we're going to the bridge next, but I'll do it now for sake of clarity.
Okay.
You guys were at warp when you went through this field. So wherever that anomaly is, it's somewhere far behind you.
It's gone, yeah.
So you don't have to worry about crushing anybody, but you do have a bit of a problem on your hand.
All right, well, Lieutenant, to engineering.
Okay, all right, I know you don't know anything about engineering, but what about piloting?
Well, I can tell you that I know much more about piloting.
Oh, that's comforting.
Listen,
right.
I can fly a shuttle, okay?
Nobody else has ever flown this thing, and if you tell Rowan I let you fly, I will shoot you again.
Duly noted.
I'm going to be working on the phaser array to see if I can make. Well, I'm basically going to make some tools so that when we get where we're going, I might be able to fix something.
Right, and do we have maybe a loudspeaker on this thing so that we could communicate with people outside of the Banshee?
No, but there is something else I could potentially do. Well, no, you're from like, oh, well, I don't know. Your people are kind of weird.
My people.
So now, have you ever heard about skywriting? Like old planes with smoke behind them, type of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Lieutenant, I'm aware of skywriting. They still do that in San Francisco, right?
I can't make assumptions with you. So what I'm thinking we can do is create some sort of ability to project writing. It's still probably going to be pretty small, so it might take something for them to notice it, but...
Well, I mean, and hear me out, you're the engineer after all. Wouldn't want to step on your toes, but we've got a warp engine that we're not going to be using while on a ship, that's for sure. Could we not just eject some warp plasma and ignite the plasma trail behind us?
And surprisingly enough, that's exactly what I was thinking, which scares me because now I'm debating whether or not that was a good idea.
You need to have faith in yourself. I've been saying this the whole time.
Yes, Doctor. Well, I don't know what the hell to call you. Yes, Inquisitor Dateg.
For the sake of the situation, which is rather unique, I'm going to let that slide. But in the future, honestly, just Commander or, Datig.
I'm sorry. I tend to get a little crabby in extremely stressful situations. You could say
Welcome to Starfleet. Is it your first day?
No, you could say I channel my inner Dateg during times like this.
Flattery will get you nowhere.
All right.
Let's move over. Let me take the controls. It's fine. I've got this. It's fine.
All right. Don't hit anything.
Why are your attitude controls inverted like this?
Equalize inverted.
Just don't crash. One quarter impulse.
Oh boy, I just got a complication from chat too. Alright, so I have to ask a very, very important question here. Obviously, you guys are in the shuttle bay, which means that the only ways out of here are either through a ventilation air duct, the door, which is currently closed, or you go outside the ship and do what they did in that DS9 episode and fly through the impulse array. So which of those three ways do you want to proceed towards engineering?
So we can do the door, the ventilation, or we can go through the plasma intakes. I was thinking,
Go ahead.
For now, maybe we keep it simple and just go through the ventilation.
And once again, I am now doubting my initial thought of going through the ventilation. But yeah, let's go through the ventilation.
Right. Okay. So what I want for you to do when we get up there is get a tractor beam ready, because we're going to have to pull the hatch off of it.
And that's actually exactly what I was going to have you guys do. I'm going to need a control, and I believe is an engineering. And the Banshee will assist you with a structure engineering, if I remember correctly. The difficulty will be a 2 on this. However, the complication will be that your complication range is a 16 to 20.
Oh, no.
And we've already got a complication on the board. I love it.
Great.
It's going to be one of those days, one of those nights. I just have a feeling. I don't know why.
I'll use a momentum.
Okay.
Hey!
So you needed 2, you got 1, and you got a complication. In fact, let me actually check those zeros. That might be multiple complications.
Those are
3 total complications. So first complication, Datig, when you try to go up, you slam the Banshee into the ground of the shuttle bay.
Yeah.
That's complication 1.
Inverted controls, I told you.
Complication 2, when you fly to the air duct, you slam into the air duct.
Yeah.
Complication 3, when you attempt to tractor the air duct, you pull it so hard towards you that you basically damage your shield array, and the ventilation cover falls to the ground, crumpled, and otherwise useless piece of metal now.
I mean, we can replace that. That's fine. We're making progress.
All right, I just want to point out that the controls were not inverted, and you assuming they were caused us quite a bit of grief. Just fly.
Just like staring daggers at him, he'll just like one finger tap the forward thrusters and just.
Banshee enters into the ventilation shaft. And now we're going to go to the bridge, because I feel like one of the most amazing scenes possible is going to about to happen. So at this point, everybody on the bridge has found the emergency packs. You all have tricorders. You all have flashlights. And you've come pretty much to the same conclusion that you passed through some kind of anomaly or something that not only disrupted power to the ship, but basically knocked out power completely. So What that means, you don't know. You haven't gotten word from engineering yet.
How would we know? How would we have come to that conclusion?
Basic tricorder scan, I think, of the surrounding decks and the fact that there's no power anywhere on the ship.
Okay. Ola looks around at the group. Options? Ideas?
You're the captain. Shouldn't you know what to do?
I'm delegating it to you.
Prin, we're working together.
Cardassians have a far more hierarchical organization to our the basic structures of our minds. So we tend to look at the individual who has a position of authority for both responsibility. Anyways, this is not important.
That explains all
He's
the war
saying he
crimes.
doesn't have any ideas.
No, we could just try to reactivate power in a limited capacity to one console, and that might allow us to determine the location where this anomaly perhaps impacted the ship.
And
You're the engineer here, Duka.
It's Ducha.
Oh, sorry.
and Doctor, maybe we should try to reestablish contact in some way and determine if anybody's hurt on board.
I'm not sure how to do that considering all power and communications is out. How would you recommend we establish contact?
We could attempt to dump the energy from a power cell in one of our tricorders, or if anybody has a phaser, into one of the consoles to try and get them working. That way we might be able to assess ship systems more efficiently.
And I'm not an engineer, but if there are tricorders in every emergency pack on the ship, couldn't we attempt to interlink with one of the other tricorders? Obtain a kind of site-to-site contact?
That would only work within range of the tricorders.
Oh.
Also, assuming that the rest of the ship is powered down, even if we had a console active, we wouldn't be able to access anything elsewhere.
We would be able to see if there are any other parts of the ship that are active. Safe to say, I believe we can ensure that the matter-antimatter safeties are still active, because the ship has not exploded yet.
Yet.
And let's go ahead and spend a momentum so that Shatalik has a phaser.
There you go.
And she says, in the event that this is potentially a hostile action, the last thing I will be parting with should be my phaser.
And this is where I spend 2 threat to create the complication that you hear thudding coming from the turbo shaft that leads to the bridge. It's almost as if someone is banging on the door.
Shatalik takes up a defensive position.
Ella will actually get a phaser herself.
All right.
And Rowan will go to the manual primer for the door and just sort of look at Shatalik and wait for the signal to go.
She nods.
Okay, no. Rowan will pump the primer.
All right, you see a figure inside, humanoid, and they're coming out very rapidly out of the turbo lift shaft. That's all the details I'm going to give you because this needs to be a split-second decision.
Shatalik is going to hold.
Hold. Good thing you did, because spilling out of the turbo lift shaft, covered in sweat and grime, is Captain Lee.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain on the bridge.
Report.
I think you just lived it, sir. We're out of power. We've determined we passed through some kind of anomaly in warp. It's knocked us completely out of warp and out of power.
Have you been able to determine the source of the damage, localizing it to some junction, part of the ship?
We were just about to use power from one of the phasers to reactivate the console to assess that, sir.
Very good. Has anyone attempted to modify a tricorder in order to get a more complete scan of the ship? I mean, if internal sensors are down, it won't really matter if we can access databanks.
Alel could take her medical tricorder she has on her and make a detailed scan, hopefully.
Yeah.
Of the area.
And tell you what, Alel, since it is your tricorder, why don't you give me a reason engineering difficulty of 1?
Engineering.
I know, your power stat.
Okay.
Use escape and avoidance.
No.
Cybernetics.
No.
Don't you have an engineering of 1 anyways?
Yeah.
Then the focus wouldn't matter because you'd still crit on a 1. All right, hey, you actually got 2 successes, so you get a momentum back.
Nice.
Alel,
Yes?
you know that handy dandy thing called a warp core?
No, I don't know anything about those.
Oh,
And I don't want to know anything about those.
well, I'm going to tell you this anyway then. Your warp core is missing.
What? I think she would be like, sir, better. Maybe you should read this. I'm not detecting any. And she like goes up to the captain and like next to him. I'm not reading any signs. Are you seeing this?
You are seeing this.
Yes. Do we have any idea about the nature of the anomaly that hit us?
No nature of anything.
This
It's
is
like, well, at least it can't explode if it's not there.
incredibly suspicious, however, that the warp core should just disappear. I mean, that would almost suggest targeted sabotage of the vessel, not...
The warp core's gone? My warp core is gone?
That's why we dropped out of warp, obviously.
Incredible that the shearing forces of re-entering normal space didn't tear the ship apart.
And I'm not an engineer. Maybe, someone else can help here. But if the warp core falls out of the ship, we still maintain like secondary power systems, correct?
The fusion generators might be offline. We may have to reroute power or restart them.
The only
We would have
question
to
is
do-
why emergency
Where's
power
Jaro?
didn't come in.
And Datig. Where's Fives? Have you seen him?
Fives was in the mess hall with me. He's reporting to engineering to see what he can do down there. At the moment, what matters is what we can do from our vantage point, not what other members of the crew might be doing. Although we do need to get some series of runners down to engineering. Ensign Rowan, I believe that you would be most suitable to that task of, I guess, transmitting messages. I don't think anyone here is nearly as physically capable as you.
Happy to, sir.
Ensign Rowan, do you think that the transmitters on the EVA suits are still active? We may be able to communicate from outside the ship.
Perhaps, but
It was
I'm
a
not
fleeting
sure.
thought.
I think it deserves follow-up. I mean, captain's discretion, of course.
Because I like to stir the pot, I'm spending 2 threat to create the complication that Alel. You just realized that if a certain experiment you were running doesn't have power, you're going to have a medical emergency a very time.
I was actually about to DM you.
Yep. So
about
yeah, you
this.
have a dangerous situation on your hand if power is not restored to sickbay within the next hour.
I was hoping that I was going to ask you if sickbay has any redundancies in place to avoid this kind of thing, because she kind of promised the captain that if anything
This is true. You did make it a
was
roleplay
going to
point.
happen, like I made it a kind of a point, like I'm trustworthy here, like
Tell you
let
what,
me
roll
do
me.
this animal testing shit.
What is your medicine score? 5?
I don't even know. Hold on.
Oh boy.
Oh Lord.
Whatever your medicine score is, I want you to roll that
It's
many
5.
challenge dice. So yeah, roll me 5 challenge dice here. And for every effect, that's how many hours you have. All right, you have 2 hours.
That would probably
Getting
come through on the
fired.
tricorder.
So
Doctor, you look
Er,
concerned. Is everything all
I
right?
have to get to sick bay right now. I have to crawl there. I don't know. Like I said, there are redundant systems in place, but they will lapse in about 2 hours with one of my biomimetic gel experiments. And there's systems in place, but total loss of power, it gives me enough time to at least get there to take care of it.
And I mean, not to throw cold water over that idea, but if the consoles don't even have power, we can't even be certain the battery backups are up. To say nothing of the fusion generators.
My suspicion is that the secondary interlocks hadn't been activated by the time the warp core was ejected. In a normal warp core ejection, you stop your power tapping to the warp core, and you transition to the fusion generators. In this instance, with the warp core just taken, there's a good chance that the fusion generators are still active. We just have to transition power over to them. But in order to tell if the fusion generators are even active at all, I would need to get to engineering.
Well, as it happens, I'm going that way.
And I can go with the doctor to sickbay if you want.
I can stay on the bridge and attempt to allay communication.
And I will attempt to, I suppose, reactivate one of these consoles and perhaps modify a tricorder to emit tetryon bursts in order to perhaps facilitate some kind of communication. Everyone who's leaving the bridge, give me a moment to attempt to modify your tricorders as well. Maybe we can create some kind of rudimentary communication system using a yoked series of tachyon emissions.
Oh, that's good, sir. We may be able to set up some kind of relay.
Exactly.
Out of character, we should leave Lee and Prin on the bridge.
So he has to talk to himself.
Make them talk to each other.
Yeah. So.
Oh my god, Borrell.
Let's see. So for the task of modifying the tricorders, let's call this a daring engineering. Let's make this a difficulty of 3. But if you succeed, as in no complications, you will be able to have a functional relay. As long as somebody has a tricorder, you can talk with them.
Okay. Let me argue for the focus of subspace dynamics, because communication inevitably tunnels through subspace.
Kind of, yeah, I'll give it to you.
Okay. And it was a difficulty 3, you said?
Difficulty of 3.
Would anyone mind if I spent 2 momentum and a threat?
No.
Okay.
I mean, we don't mind.
Daring engineering.
Ducha only has team dynamics, but can I assist?
If you tell me how.
Well, as Ducha is at the engineering station,
You're also activating him.
I was just gonna say I was gonna activate.
You can give him a focus. You can give him a value. You could upgrade one of his stats by 1 even.
What's the roll that you're making?
A daring engineering.
Daring engineering. Let's buff
And Ducha
up
actually does have a sheet, so
I'm looking at it. Let's buff up his engineering to 3. I'll go ahead and make that change now.
okay.
And because he has a focus in starship construction, he's aware of all of the communication relays on the ship and how they might interact with the proposed fields.
Mhm.
So he can assist in calibrating the tricorders to efficiently access communication using those fields.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate.
Daring engineering.
Well, that is a resounding 6 successes to start with. And then let's see how well Ducha does.
Complication.
Focuses with assists, right?
Yeah, you can do focuses with assists.
Oh wow, that's a lot of stuff. I'm almost scared.
I'm sure it can. Okay,
Hey,
see, it's not a
nothing
complication.
hurts.
Nothing hurts. All right, so that means you get 3 momentum back. You're up to 5 total. And yeah, excuse me. What I would say is that, yeah, Lee and Ducha working together, especially with Ducha's knowledge of where the relays are, I'm going to say that if you give me 2 momentum, you can actually have communication like the old like TOS style, where anyone who's able to get to a terminal on the wall, you can talk with them.
Does this mean that the terminals on the walls throughout the ship would illuminate?
No. So you would have to provide power to those terminals,
Okay.
but it's one of those things where if you are able to restore even rudimentary power, then conceivably you can talk to the whole ship.
I would say go for it, but
All right. So once that's been done, I think we see everybody departing the bridge except for Captain Lee and Ensign Prin. And right as they're about to talk to one another, that's where we're going to take our 5 to 10 minute break. So we'll be back in about 5 to 10 minutes, everybody. Stick around.
Cool.
It is very cool indeed. And welcome back from break, everybody. If you're just tuning in, well, the Kongo's in a pickle. Its warp core is missing, power's out across the ship. Some crewmen are shrunk down into tiny little dollhouse versions of themselves. There's medical experiments that are about to explode. All manner of things are happening. And where we're going to go first is we are actually going to go to main engineering. Now, I know what you're going to see here is a picture of a warp core, but that's not there. That warp core completely missing. And what we see is Fives stepping into main engineering right at the same time that both, where did I put him? Both Ducha and the Banshee arrive from separate instances. So Ducha, you come in from the northern door, Fives, you come in from the southern door, and then the Banshee flies in from the east, or sorry, the west. And you all just sort of meet in the middle.
So Ducha and Fives at the same time will be like, well, that makes it obvious. Since I only have to speak for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But then at seeing the Banshee, Fives is just gonna be like, all right, that's a little too much for me right now.
If you want, I can take Ducha if it would make your life easier.
No. I mean, I can give this a shot. It'll be fun.
All right.
So Fives will look to Ducha and crewman, see if you can give me an assessment on the fusion generators. Yes, sir. And Ducha will take that on there. And then Fives is going to try to wave down the Banshee because why is this here?
Right, yeah. Date will bring it around, and as he's doing so, we'll turn to look at Jaro and go, Lieutenant, I think you lost something.
You're muted, John.
Yes, a coat of paint off my Banshee.
Well, I was talking about the warp core.
What? Oh, God. Maybe it's just small.
Maybe it is. As a matter of fact, Jim, could I use the Banshee sensors to try to locate the warp core?
You may certainly do so. That is going to be a reason engineering, and the Banshee will assist with sensors engineering, difficulty of 4.
Jaro, you got the Banshee?
I didn't, but you can go ahead.
Okay. And you said the Banshee's assistant what?
Sensors and engineering for the Banshee.
Sensors.
And the ship always has a focus,
So I will just say,
help
Date's
from the
engineering is a 1.
Mm-hmm.
Reason though is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, reason is 11. So if everybody doesn't mind, I'm gonna dump those 3 momentum to get a couple extra dice because I'd like to be able to find this warp core.
Or at least be very certain that it's not here.
do you also want to spend determination instead of spending all 3 momentum?
Yeah, I kind of want to hang on to the determination for next. I feel like we might need it. Oh, Lord.
That is a resounding nothing across the board. Would you like to use determination to re-roll that?
Yes, I would.
All right, what value?
I think the value that I'm going to use is duty to the truth. I know the warp, the core is out there. We just have to find it. All right, let's try to re-roll these. I suck at engineering.
Just remember, we're not judging you, but we totally are.
Hey, please judge away. That's 2 successes. So that's
I
still a
will
resounding
allow
no.
this to succeed at a cost, but there will be 2 complications.
Or it could just not succeed.
Or you can either fail, or there can be 2 complications. Which would you prefer?
I don't want it. I don't need any more complications on my conscience tonight. I'd just rather be chastised in chat for wasting those 3 momentum. Thank you.
Well, too bad I'm the GM. You get 2 complications. So
No, see, that's not. No. I'm gonna
give us the
tell
choice.
Hex. I'm gonna tell Hex.
Oh no, I think this will be more interesting than you failing.
Okay.
I think it will. So actually, Jaro was correct. The warp core is still here. It's just really, really tiny. I'm talking the size of a walnut. And it is lodged in a conduit way down a few decks, almost towards where the actual exit hatch for the warp core would be on an actual ejection. But it's so lodged in there that only somebody in an EV suit or a conveniently shrunk Banshee is going to be able to get to it. But the 2 complications: the warp core is unstable and will explode in 1 hour.
That's what I was about to ask.
The second complication is that your scanning actually causes Ducha's panel that he's working on to spark, and Ducha's going to be set briefly on fire, but he'll be fine.
What is it with you and setting people on fire the past 2 days?
Don't look at me. It just happened.
All right. Lieutenant, once again, I have good news and bad news. I found the warp core. It's wedged in a conduit about 3 meters down the shaft there. Bad news is it's unstable. It's going to go up. There is still some matter and antimatter in there, and containment is failing. Also, addendum: the subspace scan has actually weakened the magnetic field on the matter-antimatter containment unit, and so we have even less time now.
There was good news in that?
Yes, I found the warp core.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Move over.
Hey. All right. We should probably reestablish what the Fives has been waving for a while.
All right. You do science stuff and try to talk to him. I'm going to take over flying.
All right. And as to that, GM, I am going to attempt to. Oh, this is going to.
Go ahead. This is a stupid idea. You got to give it.
This is going to end up being engineering again. But I want to rig the Banshee's running lights so that I can communicate via, say, a commonly
Morse code,
understood visual code,
nature?
Morse code, or whatever. If Starfleet has a future equivalent to Morse code, or if everybody just still knows Morse code.
No, I think they have to have something. All right.
Yeah.
That's going to be a control engineering difficulty of 1.
See? Here we go, guys. Oh, boy.
I mean, I believe.
Oh, boy!
Control engineering.
And this is where we roll another complication.
No, but no
we
successes.
don't roll anything.
Who bundled all this optical cable in here like this? Is this a twist tie?
No, it's a zip tie, and it's aesthetically pleasing. Just never mind. Jaro is going to fire phasers in a pulse manner to emulate the Morse code.
You just want to
Okay,
fry some
where are
retinas,
you
huh?
shooting is the question.
He is just shooting onto the deck plating.
Okay. Now, to be clear, are you literally going to carve a message, or are you just shooting to do the code?
Actually, he's going to try to carve a message.
Okay. This is going to be a control and a security. I'm going to spend some threat to make it a difficulty of 4. And the Banshee will assist you with a weapons security.
I'm not doing the Banshee, guys. I'm not.
I'll look at it.
I'll give you
Please.
I'll give you a threat for a third die.
Okay.
Oh,
Hey, what's
it
the
would
worst
help
that can happen?
It would help if I'm using the right character sheet.
I didn't have the Banshee sheet open right away. I'm sorry. It was a
Weapons security.
Thank you.
Oh, and don't worry. Alel's going to have her own fun in a moment.
Fun.
All right, hey, that's an assist from the Banshee. And it looks like that is 2-1-2, so that is a grand total of 6 successes. So you actually get 2 momentum back. What is it you wish to write, Jaro?
The message says communications out size frequency.
Communications out size frequency.
Yeah.
5s will.
Actually, it would have said comms out.
Yeah, that's fine. It's a lot easier to write than communications when you're writing with phasers into the deck plating of your own engineering place that you're going to have to fix.
Oh no, that's going to be some Klingon's job.
Here's looking at you, Duja. 5s, knowing the Banshee's communication protocols, is going to use a voice to text feature on the tricorder and try to tweak the frequency so that it matches the now shrunken reception wavelength of the Banshee.
Control engineering difficulty of 1.
I'm okay at this.
Don't roll a complication. 1 job.
Why not? We've been really good at this lately, and I haven't rolled my complication yet this game.
1 job.
Let's
Zip it.
see. Would this qualify as shipboard tactical systems to be able to communicate?
Nah, can't give you this one.
Cool. We're gonna go in blind. Boom.
Okay, hey, that's 2 successes. You get a momentum. What is it you wish to send on text-to-speech?
Basically just communicate via this frequency to my tricorder, and we will be able to, let me know that you got this message so we know we can talk to each other.
Commander, come here. Just keep it right where it is. Don't move. Don't do anything. Just make sure we don't move. And Jaro's going to make the changes to try to communicate using the information that 5's just sent.
Right. And of course, you are able to establish communication, but as you basically do a quick back and forth, we're actually now going to go to sickbay. Now, unlike the rest of the ship, sickbay actually has some power. The emergency lights are on, albeit they are flickering. And Shatalik and Alel, as you emerge from a Jeffries tube into the main sickbay, Alel, what you see is that your sickbay has been not vandalized, but it's definitely seen better days. It definitely looks like something has come through here like a rhino in a china shop.
Shatalik takes up in front of the doctor with her phaser out.
What the hell happened here? Alel will kind of make a beeline for wherever the experiments she was.
Don't go running off. And she hurries to catch up with LL.
So Alel, I have good news and bad news. Which would you like?
Bad news.
Bad news. Your experiment is missing. But the good news is that you're not detecting any explosive biomimetic gel just lying about, but your experiment is missing.
Okay, so she has a moment of panic. She does a 180, looks around to see like if there are like exit points, I guess. Actually, I don't think she would even get that far in her line of thinking. She's going to take her tricorder out and her medical tricorder and scan the area to see if she can find residuals.
All right. Reason medicine, difficulty of 1.
Reason.
No escape and avoidance.
Xenobiology.
I'll give you Xeno.
Okay.
All right, hey, that's 3 successes, so you get 2 more momentum. The trail leads to your office, Dr. LL.
Okay. The lights are on, but they're probably dim. Flickering. Okay.
Like, quite literally Ridley Scott's Alien. They're just flickering in an ominous fashion.
Okay. So she's going to kind of prep Shatalik here.
What are we seeing? What am I looking out for, Doctor?
Do you remember that? Were you on the ship when we came across that ghost ship?
I've heard stories.
Well, I was one of the crew that went on board. While I was there, I collected samples of these worms crawling out of the walls. Pretty much standard operating procedure. Just kind of lie. In my studies of these worms, I discovered that they were actually trisexual, meaning that there were 3 different sexes needed for reproduction: a male, a female, and a host. I noticed that the host gender of this worm contained an organic compound which was quite similar to denobulin blood plasma. This piqued my curiosity that they might be useful in assimilation resistance, which would be able to help certain crewmates who are being perhaps tapered off of nanite suppressants. Long story short, I was experimenting with some space worms, and I just hope that they're in there.
So we're going to encounter space worms?
Hopefully dead worms, yes?
Do we want them dead if we find them?
That would be sad if we had to do that, but regretfully, yes. We'll have to dispose of them.
Yes, sir.
It's
so
then.
She's gonna. Oh,
Hold
go
on.
ahead. No, you go
It's
ahead.
then you start to hear a noise coming from your office.
No.
It's light purring. You've heard this before. That's a tribble.
Oh shit. She's gonna like run to the door with her phaser in hand.
And
Zatalik's right behind her.
what you see is that the moment you pass into your office, Alel, the cooing stop, and instead you have angered the tribble. The tribble is angry, and leaping out at you from the darkness is an amalgamation of Borg, tribble, and space worm as it flies at your face. Because apparently we didn't have enough problems, we now have Borg, tribble, worm things.
Who's in front here? Would Shatalik be like...
You ran ahead.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was say you ran ahead here. So
Excellent. She's gonna try and duck.
all right, well, I need you to roll me a daring and security, difficulty of 1. I'm gonna actually spend 1 threat to give the Borg tribble a extra die. Actually, you need, it looks like 3 successes here in order to not get tackled by the Borg tribble amalgamation thing.
And escape and avoidance.
Yes, it would. Yes. You may wish to spend momentum here. You do have 5
Oh
to
shit.
play with.
Okay, what am I rolling?
You were rolling a daring and security.
Okay.
Your power stats again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great, cool. How much momentum do we have?
5.
I would like to spend 1.
Okay.
Oh, please.
There you go. There's the 3 you need. So actually, as part of this, Alel, you can not only avoid the creature coming at you, but you can actually affect your own attack on it if you wish.
She'll just try and avoid, and she would let, like, Shatalik
Okay.
fire.
So, Alel, you quickly step to the side. The Borg tribble thing flies past you, hits the ground, starts to hiss and coo. And I guess, Shatalik, it is now technically your turn.
Shatalik's shooting it.
All right, question. Are you doing it lethally or non-lethally?
Maximum stun, because the doctor seems to want to keep whatever it is.
Okay. All right. It's going to be a control security difficulty of 2.
Okay. And she's like, "What the? Oh God! It's horrible!" And we're gonna go ahead and spend 1 momentum.
Okay. This would be a very bad time to roll a complication. Okay, good. You got 3 successes. You get the momentum right back. Go ahead and roll me 6 challenge dice to see how much damage you inflict. And that is sufficient. You stun the Borg tribble. It stops cooing and purring and squeaking and squalling. It just sort of sits there like a puffball that's been assimilated by both worm and Borg alike.
I just stunned it. Is that okay, Doctor?
I guess that's fine. I don't know what we should do with it now.
I can still kill it.
She's gonna look around to see if there's anything else in the office that's awry.
No, your office actually looks pretty spotless, but I'll throw you a bone. There is a specimen container in there.
Okay, she's gonna go take a look at the container.
Oh, it's empty. Just an empty specimen container. Nothing was supposed to be in it. Just an empty container.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna put the Borg tribble in the container.
There you go.
Let's put it in this, she says, and she like kneels down to kind of scoop it in.
And I'd like to say that as your hand touches it, it's a disgusting texture. It's like fur and worms and mud. It's one of those spine shivering kind of touches.
Ah, invigorating, isn't it?
Oh, it's quite invigorating, ma'am. I mean, sir.
Doctor is fine.
Doctor.
Well, I think that should do it for this experiment.
Is there anything else we need to worry about, Doctor?
GM.
Up to you.
Let me go check my other experiments one moment. So she'll go over to her like back office experimental area and just make sure everything's kind of apropos and like hopefully it is.
Yeah, I was going to say at this point, all the really dangerous experiments you've contained. So the other experiments, yeah, you can shut them down safely. No harm done.
Okay. So she'll kind of power them down into like a holding pattern state, like not nothing active, especially anything with biomimetic gel. She would reduce that safely while she can. And then she's going to try and get a hold of like the captain or anybody.
Well, you can at
Faye
least
has,
get the
like,
captain,
minimal
yes.
Power. Would she be reaching him on like the tricorder that they basically daisy chained?
That or a terminal, because since sickbay has power, the terminals are active in here.
So, but she'll just try and call his comm badge then.
Okay. So you would get through to Lee. You would get through.
Captain, this is Alel.
Doctor, status?
Everything's fine here in sickbay, sir. Thanks to
I'm-
Shatalik.
Is that purring in the background?
Yes. It's hard to describe with words. I don't know if the universal translator can do it justice.
Shatalik kind of screams from the background. It's a worm tribble Borg.
Okay, whatever you do, do not inform engineering of that discovery, because we don't want our new engineering officer to start a rampage, try to reenact the great tribble hunts. Although that does seem like something we would probably want to exterminate. Regardless, it's contained.
It is totally contained, sir, and I've checked everything else, and everything is up on the up and up.
Very good, Doctor.
And I apologize profusely for this situation.
Well, I think I did remind you when we had our conversation about experiments in sickbay that you had to be prepared for a total systems failure and complete loss of power. So I'm glad to see that, but for this little tribble enterprise, you've actually have prepared for all of them. So good job, Doctor. Overall.
Thank you, Captain. I was not expecting you to say that.
I guess 95% is better than 90?
Subjectively. I mean, objectively. I'm sorry. I'll prepare sickbay in case anyone's injured.
Very good, Doctor. If there's nothing else, Lee out.
Yeah, she would close the connection.
And as with that, we're going to cut back to main engineering. Where at this point, the Banshee and Fives and Ducha, you're all able to talk to one another text-to-speech. But yeah, at this point, you've got an hour 40, or you've probably got about more like 45 minutes before that warp core goes up. But I would just simply say that not only is the warp core smaller than the Banshee currently, it's also destabilizing in such a way that the only way to restabilize it is to make it big again. Or just throw it in space and have it explode out there, but that's your call, not mine.
Is there a way that in the interim we could have daisy chained Fives tricorder with Ducha's, which is connected to the rest of them?
I would say that's possible.
Okay. This means that we have an established communication between everyone on the Banshee and everybody else who has one of these tricorders.
Correct.
So we would be relaying information to the captain via voice to text, basically saying, Lieutenant Fives, Crewman Ducha, Lieutenant Jaro, and Lieutenant Commander Dodig are in engineering, and the warp core and the Banshee have been shrunk to this approximate size. Troubleshooting now.
Troubleshooting. We're gonna unplug it and plug it back in.
The first order for Ducha will be to assess the condition of the fusion generators to see if the interlock theory is true.
Okay.
To at least try and see if it's possible to get the ship on minimum power, while Jaro and Dodig maybe perhaps come up with a way to save the ship from an exploding micro warp core.
Yep. And Jaro adds to the end of the message, yeah, please hold.
Nice.
Actually, I think in response to that, Lee would send down a message. Considering his familiarity with the missions of the emissary and the fact that he has now obviously read logs pertaining to their experience with that miniaturized subspace compression field, he would suggest that it might be possible, and he would run this by the engineering staff, if they could create some kind of warp field with the Banshee itself in order to emulate the effects of the compression field, since obviously we wouldn't be able to bring the warp core back to that area of space, considering we can't move at warp. So would there be some way to use a warp bubble projected by the ship, the Banshee, to restore it? And then he would sort of lead that.
We're going to handle that in a moment, but let's handle Ducha first, because I think Ducha could get you vital momentum here. So, Ducha, I want you to roll me a Reason and Engineering, difficulty of 1. You actually have 2 focuses that apply here, both starship construction and deuterium injectors as focuses.
Reason, Engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, dice and focus.
Just need 1 success. That's all we need to see. No complications.
No whammy, no whammy, no
Okay,
whammy.
there
Stop.
you go. You got your 1 success.
At the bare minimum.
If you want to restore power, you actually can take it from the independent phaser supply that powers the phasers, and you could restore minimal power to all decks.
We could. Okay. So Duchal will report through our daisy chain that we can reroute primary and secondary phaser arrays into the primary power generators to restore minimal power on all decks. And fives will say do it. And fives will work with Ducha to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And bringing his, because the tricorder is basically set to text to speech, so everybody has live input on what is being said. The conversation is streaming. So yeah, fives will assist crewman Ducha.
All right.
Or
so what that's
versa.
actually going to mean is the power will come up across the ship, minimal power, emergency lighting only, but thankfully life support will kick back in. Anything related to medical power is back on. You have basic communication now if you need to use it.
What about internal and external sensors?
Those are still down. The only reason they're still down is because you have advanced sensor suites, and technically you took a breach to your sensors when this all happened, so your sensors are kind of kaput right now.
But we do have internal communications.
Correct.
So fives will report to the captain. Captain, we have internal communications again, and this is reporting over the comm line. Recommend we assemble all crew at duty stations and have any injured report in to sickbay.
Very good. Excellent work. I will make the necessary orders and dispatch them to the crew.
Understood. We're still working on the warp core problem, but I'll leave the report for Lieutenant Commander Dodig and Lieutenant Jaro.
All right. So now let's address the Jaro and Dotig situation. So the way I'm envisioning it here is you need to accomplish three things. Number one of you is going to have to fly the Banshee down to where the warp core is lodged. Number two, you're going to have to lock it in a tractor beam. Number three, you're going to have to generate a special kind of warp field that will enlarge it back to where it should be so that the safety systems can safely, lock onto it, bring it down to a stop, and then you can cold boot it later. But those are the three things that need to happen in order to divert this explosion. So, first question, who's flying?
So Jaro is making this mental list in his head. He looks at the doctor, and he looks at and he internally looks at the mental list. I can't believe I'm saying this, Doctor, but I'm gonna need you to fly again.
I can do that.
All right, thank you. Because
Technically.
there's a lot of stuff that needs to go on down there, and it actually fits with some of the theories that I've been putting in practice on the warp core itself. So I'm probably better off doing that.
Very good.
All right.
Oh, I'll fly us down there.
Mr. Dotig, I need you to roll me a daring and a con, difficulty of 3.
Mm-hmm. Daring and con, you say.
Mm-hmm.
Difficulty
I know your
3,
power
you
stat.
say.
Yeah. Difficulty 3.
I want to challenge a value.
Okay, what are we challenging?
I'm gonna challenge my value. Together, we can move worlds. And after this is all said and done, I'm gonna replace it with fine. I'll do it myself.
Okay. All right. Sure.
All right. So we're gonna do that. I'm also gonna spend 2 momentum for an extra die on this.
All right. Don't roll a complication.
Don't say that.
You had one job. What did I say? You had one job.
You're
One
you're tweaking
job.
the RNG. What am I supposed to do? You're the GM. You've got control over everything.
Well, the good news is you do get a momentum. I think the bad news here, the complication is, yeah, you get the Banshee down the main shaft, down to where the warp core is, but the complication is you actually slam the Banshee into the warp core, and you basically accelerate the destabilization process. Instead of having 30 minutes, you now have 5.
And Jaro's just going to be okay. Just hold it still, please.
Oh yes, yes. I think I can manage that.
All right. So, Mr. Jaro, since you are doing the engineering things, it's a control engineering. The Banshee will assist with a structure engineering. The difficulty on this is a 3.
Okay. Calling back to his other instances of having to take care of the transportation system in an emergency. Actually, no, this goes more back to us using the engineering feat to summon the worms away, because we used warp field dynamics for that. So Jaro is going to use a determination.
Okay.
And he is going to use engineering is my new home.
Okay.
And I will also use 2 momentum. Yeah. And that was daring engineering?
Control engineering, actually.
Okay. Control engineering. 3 dice, and I am going to assume that warp field technologies is actually very useful.
It would be for, well, I guess it is technically the warp core. Yeah, I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
All right, here we go. Oh, God! I'm going to challenge value to reroll.
Why don't I just give you my determination?
Okay, we could do that.
Ow. Ow. For those who can't see the screen, he's rolled 2 complications. I mean, you still succeed.
Yeah,
it was only a
shoes on
difficulty
the
of
other
3.
foot now, isn't it, John?
And I'm going to just re-roll the 2 failed dice with the determination.
Shades of groundskeepers.
There we go.
Okay, that's
better.
significantly better. That is a grand total of 6 successes. So that gives you, what then, 3 momentum? Yeah, 3 momentum. So yeah, you basically lock the tiny little warp core in a tractor beam on the Banshee. Now you have to do the hardest part, which is create a special warp field. Jaro, this might be the most important roll you've ever had to make in the history of your career.
Oh, great.
This is going to be a daring engineering. It's going to be a difficulty of 5. And the Banshee will assist you with an engines engineering.
And on this one, we are going to be challenging a value.
Okay.
And because he is kind of just doing this almost recklessly, trying to get it done quickly, the value I'm challenging is measure twice, cut once.
All right.
And I am getting, I am going to be taking damn the torpedoes full speed ahead.
All right.
Could I substitute Lee's assist for that of the Banshee? Using an engineering command, because Lee did say that he was going to start functionally organizing repair crews and the like throughout the ship. So, in essence, he is facilitating the opening of power taps and the like, such that the engineering teams that are working around the engineering section are going to make the reintegration of the warp core easier.
I'll give it to you. You can have Lee's presence engineering be rolled in place of the Banshee.
Okay. And we're going to use 2 of the momentum for a 3rd die.
All right. This would be a very bad time to roll a complication.
But bad times are the best times.
Kaboom. right, look at that.
All right, hey, that's 6 successes. Let's see. Oh, we got the President's Engineering above that for 7 total successes. So, the good news is, quite miraculously, Fives and Ducha, you're treated to the sign of the warp core enlarging and more or less fitting back into place as Jarl carefully oscillates the field. However, and I saved 2 threat just so I could do this, there is a problem with the Banshee. And what I mean with problem with the Banshee is, you remember that old college story about kids that would take apart a car and put it in a classroom, and the people would wonder how the car got in the classroom? Well, when everything is said and done, the Banshee, full size, is now stuck in main engineering.
Okay, so this is going to take me a while to fix.
Well, just remember where we parked.
Computer, lock onto the Banshee and beam it to main shuttle bay, please.
Unfortunately, there is no power available for transport.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen.
I mean, listen, worst comes to worst, we can use the industrial transporter aboard Deep Space October when we get there. Just...
Yeah, actually, that sounds great. We'll just
So-
leave it here in engineering.
With the warp core enlarged, do our systems coming back online?
You just have to push the button to restart the warp core, but yes.
I will push the button.
The warp core restarts. Everything starts working again.
Captain, we've got main power back. I would recommend not coming to engineering for a while. We had to make a mess in here to make everything work right. I'll give you a call back when I have more detail.
Yeah, fortunately, the only other officer on duty on the bridge at the moment is Ensign Prin, and I'm not going to leave him in command, so I cannot report to engineering to actually see what you're talking about, which you realize you've just made me more curious about, right?
It's the best for both of us, sir.
It's okay, sir. Commander Dateg and I are now in engineering. Full size.
Oh, for the love of any gods you may pray to, just tell him, Captain, the Banshee returned to its normal size in main engineering.
Cuts communication.
You get about half of that, Lee. You get about half of it.
And you hear Prin just off in the distance. I'm beginning to doubt the competence of most of the officers on board this ship. Yes, thank you, Ensign.
Ducha
So
is beating his ridges into the bulkhead. Same.
I'll be on the bridge.
Is there enough energy to do a site-to-site transport of the occupants of the Banshee into main engineering?
Yeah, you can get them out of the Banshee. That's easy enough.
Prepare for beam out.
Right. And as life returns to normal on the Kongo, that is where we'll end today's session. My God. We started with how many complications, and then, oh my lord. So what did you guys think? I've been waiting to do sort of a bottle episode like that for a while, so...
I really enjoyed it. I like
complications
the
today.
drop out of warp, ship goes dark, mystery. Yeah.
Run into a
fun.
quantum filament.
Yeah, very, very disaster. I liked it.
It's exactly as they left it, in the bottle.
Mhm.
The bottle. Ship in a bottle? Good lord.
Sure, ship in a
right,
bottle.
cool.
Built them all the time.
Yeah.
Great
Great
fun.
fun.
The
I like
thing
how
to
we
ask.
incorporated like Hillel checking in on her experiments earlier,
Mhm.
like in the first part of the episode, like incorporated that later into the episode. I thought that was great.
You actually did that. I did not plan for you to do that, so that was totally a happy coincidence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's pretty good. All right, well, this is where I'm going to end the recording for YouTube, but Twitch, stick around because we're going to rate somebody. But YouTube, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you later.